Coming up on No Pulp, number one falls again. This time it's Purdue. Going down in Evanston, John. Those number one teams just keep on dropping.
They do. Another near upset in Charlottesville. Pandemonium in the Windy City, but some craziness over in Charlottesville because Virginia got past Duke, but there wasn't some controversy in that process, and it was the officials that lied, not the ball. We'll get into that.
Three blind mice in the ACC? Who knows? And all around the college basketball world, things go crazy. We've got Andrew Selover in the juicer and a whole lot of hoops to talk. It's No Pulp, and it starts right now.
Sonny DeShero from Auburn.
The freshman never win. The freshman never win championships.
John, man, you are an absolute sweat.
Cleveland the catch. Good if it goes. He hit it.
Wow, he's getting serious.
Frankly, I'm pretty embarrassed.
Bang! Really hit the all day
Thanks for joining us inside the CitrusTV studios. Ian Unsworth and John Eads with you, wrapping up a massive weekend of college hoops, John. It seems like every single time we get conference matchups over a Saturday and Sunday, there's chaos.
A random team will lose. That's why we love this time of year. Closing up shop on February, getting to the mid part of it, and then early part of March when things start to heat up.
Home stretch of the season, you got injuries, you got teams making comebacks, late runs, conference title pushes. It's all over the place. And the latest team to throw their name in the conference title hat, Northwestern, because the Wildcats beat Purdue 64-58 Sunday afternoon, John. While I was making the pulled pork for our Super Bowl party, Chris Collins and the Northwestern Wildcats were causing havoc.
Can you remember the last time Northwestern was this serious of a contender for the Big Ten championship? Because I can't.
I don't think there was a Big Ten championship time. They made the tournament about 6 or 7 years ago.
That's about it, though.
They've never contended for a Big Ten title in our lifetimes.
Well, I would argue Purdue should have won this game, and I'll take you to a key moment in this game. It was 55-47. Under 4 minutes to go, and it looked like a routine Big Ten game. You know, Purdue was struggling, but they were probably going to pull this one out. Then Northwestern comes out of nowhere. They finish the game on a 17-3 run in the final 4 minutes to take the W. The Boilermakers turn it over 4 times in the final minute 22 of this game. It just was not winning basketball.
What you didn't see on that box score were Purdue's guards. That's a big-time problem for the Boilermakers. Young guards, 2 freshmen starting for Matt Painter's crew, and Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer. They went a combined 2 of 13 from the floor, 1 of 5 from three-point range. Look, it's nice to have these guys that will grow in your program, will produce down the line. But right now, when it's winning time, it's really difficult to rely on 2 first years. Zach Edey might be 7'4", but the guy can't do it all.
You need to have that experience if you want to win those tough road games in the Big Ten Conference. So that was a pretty brutal loss for them. They just did not execute down the stretch. Really the entire second half, too. They only had 21 points in the second half and 6 field goals. So they did not look like the number one team in the Big Ten or the country, I would say.
Well, let's put some respect on Northwestern's name, though, because this is a team with 6 quad 1 wins. They're top 25 in the country in defensive efficiency and 2-point percentage field goal defense. So this team keeps you outside the paint and makes you take bad shots.
I know it's Northwestern, but you got to give them some respect. They're 44th in the net rankings right now and competing for the Big Ten Conference title. So it was basketball that decided the final stages of that game over in the Windy City. Over in Charlottesville, not necessarily the case. Number 8 Virginia and Duke. This one came down to the final seconds in the matchup, and there was a controversial call at the end of regulation that prompted an overtime. So Kyle Filipowski drove to the basket, last second dash to the cup. He was fouled in the process. The official called the foul. Then they reversed it. Game goes to overtime, and then Virginia wins 69-62.
They say he shot it before the foul. So the shot occurred during the game, but then the foul happened after there were double zeros on the, how in the heck does that happen?
So the officials said that the ball had to be in the air before the buzzer went dead to count. And it clearly was in play. Filipowski shot it. It was in midair. It was ranging towards the basket before the buzzer sounded. So that should have been 2 free throws for Kyle Filipowski.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It robs Duke of a resume win. That's the worst problem about all this. And then the ACC goes on to admit they're wrong. Here's the statement. It's too long. We're not going to read all of it, but that's the fine print. You get the picture. Look, the Atlantic Coast Conference has had referee problems this year all over the place. In women's basketball, Duke coach Carol Lawson says they played the first half against Florida State with a men's ball. Hubie Davis, Josh Pastner both have gone after officials. I mean, Jim Boeheim's always doing it. So there's nothing new here, but at the same time, it's all happened in like a 2-3 week span. Jim Phillips has to do something.
Well, it's a brutal look, too, because they made the correct call initially. The official on the near sideline put up his fist for a foul call, and then for whatever reason, they reversed it. Now, with that said, some will say, hey, ball don't lie, right? So they go to overtime, Virginia dominates and ends up winning this game. So that side of the demographic has that point, but that was just straight up a foul, and the film doesn't lie there.
It really hurts John Shire, too, because Duke only has two quad one wins. One was on a neutral floor, and the other was against a Miami team that just smacked the crap out of them 2 weeks later. So it really doesn't mean a whole lot, and this Virginia game will just fall by the wayside. Over to the women's side, speaking of top teams, South Carolina put a whooping on LSU at home. 88-64 the final score. This is supposed to be number 1 against number 3 in the nation. It didn't even look like that. USC had a 15-point lead in the first quarter.
Yeah, did not look like that. It got to the point where it was so bad that LSU's head coach said that this team is far and away the best team in women's college basketball. And the LSU head coach, her name's Kim Mulkey. She coached at Baylor back in 2011-2012. That team won 40 games that year, didn't lose a single game as well. She said she would not be surprised if South Carolina pulls that off this year. That's how good this Gamecock squad is.
There's no Aaliyah Boston on this box score right here.
That's the most.
You got Zion Cook, you got Camila Cardoso, Syracuse transfer at that. But that's your reigning National Player of the Year who can just chill, focus on the defensive side to stop Angel Reese, one of the best transfers in the country. You have so much depth with the Gamecocks. You can go 8-9 deep. That this team is totally going to blow through the NCAA tournament. Going to win the SEC, no problem.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's because of one player that really impresses me that you talk about that depth. Doesn't even start. Camila Cardoso, the Syracuse transfer, has not started a single game this year, but is averaging 10 points per game and over 8 rebounds per game, and she shows up huge in these big games. Talk about this LSU game. She had 18 points against the Tigers, and she had 17-9 in a game against UConn. So this team won the national title last year. They're in prime position to repeat this year because nobody can compete,
You can't teach tall. That's the key. You can't teach tall. You got 6'8". That is a trump card to play all the time.
Just nobody else has what South Carolina has, and the Gamecocks benefit from that. Now, one team that found itself on the train track in front of that South Carolina freight train was UConn. The Huskies lose 81-77 last week to South Carolina, and then they followed it up with another loss, this time 59-52 to lowly Marquette. So do the quick math. That's back-to-back losses, and that's back-to-back losses for the first time since before you and I were born. 1993 the last time that happened. And let's remind you, this UConn team, a squad that won 4 straight national championships back in the 2010s decade, is this the end?
No, it's not. Okay. Gino Auriemma has just had some really bad luck. Look, Paige Beckers goes down with an ACL tear. You can't help that. AZ Fudd, who was the #1 recruit 2 years ago, has also just had nagging knee injuries season after season. And in that Marquette game, you had 4 out of 5 starters playing at least 35 minutes. Yeah. Only 3 players off the bench, and neither of them played double-digit minutes. That's just not a formula for success. In conference play, you're playing multiple games a week. Like right there, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday. In that Marquette game, you're just stretching players. You're trying to make the most out of whatever you can get out of these guys. They have to be dog-tired. Gino has to be really struggling with his rotations. And UConn's going to be just fine. They're going to keep recruiting at a high level. They've got another great class coming in. Do not worry, UConn fans. This is just 1 year. It'll pass.
They've got Gino. That's the key. And look, I mean, you can't prepare in the offseason to lose a player like Paige Beckers, who won the Wooden Award last year. All-American type player, averaged 17 points per game in her career. You can't replace somebody like that. You can try. You can kind of fill it in with Band-Aids. AZ Fudd is one of those, but she's been out for most of this season.
She's needed the Band-Aids.
Just returned recently. Exactly, with the knee injury. So you need her back in the lineup. She is back for this team. One thing I will also say is all of the losses have been on the road, minus that South Carolina loss, so that's difficult to handle as well with the younger team without that experienced veteran leader in Paige Beckers. So let's chill out a little bit. Back-to-back losses. I mean, yeah, first time since 1993. There's a reason why that's happened. They've been so good.
No Paige Beckers for UConn, and that's a big-time loss. So which of those players that have moved around, jumped into the scene in college basketball, have made their marks over the majority of this season? We'll check it out in the juicer. After the break, John Eads and Andrew Selover squaring off after this. You're watching No Pulp.
Well, Thomas, you've got pre-diabetes. But with more exercise and a change in diet, it can be reversed.
I've tried exercising. It just makes me hungry for bacon.
I love bacon, too. And who really likes to exercise?
Not me.
Me neither.
Nobody. So we're good?
What? Oh, you still have prediabetes. Big time.
Here's your check. Oh, you got it. You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. Got it. No?
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early. You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is...
Come on, it's not that hard.
My big man fingers are having a problem with these little tiny buttons.
Whoa, watch it there. Your blood pressure's gonna go through the roof.
Tell me about it. I'm trying to learn how to get it down. Instead, it keeps going up.
High blood pressure can increase the risk for heart attack or stroke. Learn how to keep yours at a healthy range.
Ever hear a voice command? Just say text barbershop to 97779.
That's not what I said.
Just give me that. Now my blood pressure's up.
Hey, thanks for sticking with us on No Pulp. Ian Unsworth here with my challengers tonight. It's time for the juicer. In the blue corner, we've got John Eads.
It's all blue.
And in, yeah, I guess this is the red corner. I think that's a little bit of red in there. All right, so in the red corner, we've got Andrew Selover, who joins us tonight. We stayed a very nice weekend with Andrew's parents in Atlanta a couple weeks ago, so this is his gift in return.
Oh, thank you.
How you feeling?
I'm excited to win the juicer.
All right, so I don't know what this is. Okay, let's keep it civil here. So here are the rules, nice and simple. 4 questions, the first 3 worth 1 point, and the last one, just for a bit of elevated suspense, is worth 2. So let's start here. The best freshman in men's basketball this season, John.
Well, some people are calling me a homer for this pick because we broadcast our shows here in Syracuse.
I'll be one of them.
It's Judah Mintz, top 6 in the nation amongst freshmen in scoring.
Seems a bit biased.
Okay, but it goes beyond the box score, the amount of points per game this guy scores, which is above 14 points per game. The dude just simply has this Syracuse team in a position to make a run. He scored 15 or more points in his last 5 games. Now, that's when the games get important. I don't care what players do in November and December and January. It's all about February and March, and right now, Judah Mintz is balling. He's second on this Syracuse team in scoring. He also affects the game in different ways. He averages over 4 assists per game, and he leads the ACC in steals. So it's more than just the shooting and the scoring. He does it all for this SU team.
Well, John apparently likes Syracuse, New York. I'll tell you where I like, and that's the South. We're headed to the SEC, where we meet Alabama freshman Brandon Miller. And John, you mentioned having to play in February and March, playing your best basketball. Well, Judah Mintz isn't going to have a March because Syracuse's season is over in February. Brandon Miller's taken that top-ranked Alabama squad to the tournament. He's the leading scorer in big games like Michigan State and Gonzaga, averages 19 points a game, 8 rebounds a game, double-digit points in all but 1 game. And guess what he can do? He can dunk, and Judah Mintz can't. Denied by the rim twice at Florida State.
Okay, I think Judah Mintz has shown that he can dunk this season. Let's not go that far. But Brandon Miller leading the nation in scoring is a pretty hard thing to top. So Brandon Miller is the winner, and Andrew Selover gets our first point here. So we move from the men's side to the women's side, and our challenger begins first here. Who is the best freshman in women's basketball through the majority of the season?
I'm taking you to unknown program, Sacred Heart.
Okay, where is that?
I'm going to be honest, I don't know. We're playing in the Northeast Conference, though. Sierra Pryor, and she's been fantastic. Leads the team in almost every single category, averaging 17 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, 4 assists per game. And as a freshman, to be leading your team in not only points but rebounds, assists, and blocks, an unexpected recruit. Just 5'3", scores double digits in every single game. That's really unheard of from a freshman.
Nobody knows where Sacred Heart is, but everybody knows where Florida State is. And where Florida State is in Tallahassee, Florida, of course. And that's where Tanaya Latson plays. She is the best freshman in college women's basketball. She leads the ACC in scoring overall and leads all freshmen overall in the nation in scoring. And it's because she has a very high field goal percentage, and she is automatic from close range, 46% from the field, and she loves to get to the charity stripe. I mean, she loves those charitable donations to her team. Over 150 free throws this season on 86% efficiency. efficiency. That's second in the ACC. One last thing. She is a gamer. Let me read you her resume from this year. 21 points against North Carolina, one of the top teams in the ACC in the country. 31 against NC State, then 15 against Duke. She comes to play in the big games.
So you had the best freshman scorer in the men's game. Yep. You have the best freshman scorer in the women's game, and so we are now even at one apiece. Look, I can't really argue against either of your picks here.
Fair.
So now let's get into the nitty-gritty, because this time it gets a bit more complicated. John, the best transfer in men's college basketball is?
I'm glad you said gritty, because we're going to Ypsilanti, Michigan, where, as you know, it's all about being gritty. And that's what Imani Bates is. Transfer from Memphis, goes to Eastern Michigan. Biased. I mean, Eastern Michigan is
You're a Michigan guy.
Yeah, but it's irrelevant in terms of the Michigan landscape, because Eastern Michigan's like 6-19 this year. But someone who has the Eastern Michigan team in a position to win 6 games this year is Imani Bates, top 20 in the country in scoring over 20 points per game. He's also 4th in the MAC with about 3 3-point field goals per game this season. He's had 4 different 30-plus point games. 2 of those came against Michigan and South Carolina. So yeah, you and I could both go for 20-plus points per game in the MAC, on a pretty pedestrian regular basis. But how about 30 against some of the big dogs in Michigan and South Carolina?
I just want to butt in and say it looked like Imani was playing on a cornfield. Can we all just address that for a second?
Hey, you can't do anything about your competition. All you can do is ball out against them. That's what he does.
I'll just say, I got a transfer that's helping his team win a whole lot more than 6 games this season, and that's Keontae Johnson, headed to Kansas State from Florida. And Johnson's story is really a miracle. Collapsed on the court with the Gators 2 seasons ago, played only 80 minutes of basketball over the last 2 years, and now he helps a Wildcats team that was projected to finish last in the Big 12. Well, they're just 2 games out of first place and ranked 12th overall. And oh yeah, he's leading them in scoring at 17 points per game. I'm pretty sure that Keontae Johnson has a much bigger impact on a bigger stage than Imani Bates.
Depends on who he is.
It's a much bigger stage, and Keontae Johnson might live near a cornfield, but he's not playing on one. So Andrew Selover gets the point. It is 2-1 Andrew, but this last question is worth 2 points. So John is not out of it yet. And he's got the second choice here. Andrew's going first. The best transfer in women's college basketball for your final punch here is?
Well, I'm going to go with a player that somehow you managed to bring up earlier in the show, and I think that's a good thing if you're coming up in the first show of the year. Angel Reese, LSU. Really good player, averages 23 points per game, 15 rebounds per game. And if you're in the top 5 of both scoring and rebounds in the country, that's hard to match. She's leading this LSU squad to a one-loss season so far, and this was a Tigers team that was 9-13 2 years ago. I don't know how you can. 2 years ago, they bring in Kim Mulkey, and they also bring in Angel Reese from Maryland, and she is leading this squad to a possible national championship, perhaps, at the rate the Tigers are going.
But there's other pieces around her that are allowing LSU to succeed.
I don't know about 23 and 15, though.
I mean, I'm going back to the MAC because that's where De'Asia Fair came from. She averaged 20 points per game over there with Buffalo, and a lot of people were skeptical of a spectacle.
Homer picks?
No, but they were wondering if she could translate that success from the MAC over to the ACC, and she certainly has, averaging that same output, 20 points per game, also second in the ACC in steals per game, 4th in the ACC in 3-point field goals per game. I can read you stats all you want, but her impact on this Syracuse program goes beyond what Angel Reese is doing at LSU because they've got the excellent coach in Mulkey there. De'Asia Fair is the only reason why Syracuse is even competing for the NCAA tournament this year. An off game for De'Asia looks like 12 points. She has not had a single-digit point performance this season. That's why Syracuse is competing for the NCAA tournament.
I got something for you. Angel Reese hasn't scored less than 14
That's
a game.
That's fine, but she has to be that person for them. There's other pieces around her for LSU to succeed.
John Eads he's a biased journalist.
Let's retreat to our corners here. John, I hate to break it to you, but De'Asia Fair takes 16 shots a game.
That's because she has to.
That is where the downfall comes for Mr. Eads here. Andrew Selover is our champion in the juicer today. Andrew, how's it feel?
1-0, undefeated.
Jade's first loss in the juicer, and we have two more segments. We got two more segments of the show to do together, so I'm going to scurry over here, and we're going to keep it rolling. So after this, we will take on the Twitter trolls because hot Twitter takes are coming up on No Pulp next.
You've messed up your son's haircut.
Mom?
Do you A, try to fix it?
Like it never happened.
B, work with what you got? Or C, show solidarity?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
I see you mobbing over her. Let's go. Let's mob. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, we mobbing. Come on, girl. Let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl. Hey, let's crawl. Hey, yo, let's crawl.
Welcome back to No Pulp. We got rid of Andrew Selover and his juicer win. That's all fine and dandy. It's Ian Unsworth, John Eads. I'm still mad at you for giving him the win, by the way, but that's fine. I'll get back to you when you're in the juicer next. Anyways, Ian and I are frequent users of Twitter, and we've both kind of voiced our hot takes. You do your yearly Phillies blow the game bullpen kind of thing with the bumps and whatnot.
Do you have yours in your reels?
I don't have mine on my reels. They're already too long to begin with, so, you know, that's the big thing there. But I am noted for doing a video calling out Planet Fitness, so I've got my own kind of hot takes and fiery takes of my own.
You also got your locks of the week. Those are hot and
below
dangerous.
50%.
Dangerous.
I'll admit below 50%, but that's neither here nor there. That's a story for another time. What we're about to do is show you some tweets that we saw on Twitter from this past week relating to college basketball that were pretty darn hot. What do you got?
So let's start off with the #1 team in the country. That is Alabama, because Jeff Goodman of Stadium says that the Crimson Tide should squarely be the #1 team in the country. Jeff, I have to disagree with you, because the Bama team has held 3 straight squads to 69 points. Nice, but this team does play with pace, and no one else in the SEC does. 8 of the 14 teams in the Southeastern Conference are under 200 in KenPom at average pace, and Bama just runs them up and down the court. No one else can keep up with Nate Oates and his crew. I think once they get into the NCAA tournament, things look a bit different. Those games are a lot closer.
Well, one team that's nowhere near being the #1 team in the country is Syracuse, and there was a guy on Twitter, Mr. Dodger 1966, if I'm not mistaken. He thinks SU punched its ticket to the NCAA tournament after beating Florida State, one of the worst teams in the ACC. I mean, are you kidding me with that? Syracuse is a long, long way from making the NCAA tournament, and this Florida State win really didn't help their case at all. I mean, sure, it's maybe a quad 3, quad 4 kind of win. It does nothing for you because Florida State is downright terrible. Right now, Syracuse is 98th in the net rankings, 1-8 in quads 1 and 2. They do have some chances coming up. A home game against NC State here on Tuesday, Valentine's Day. They go to Pitt. Those are 2 potential quad 1 win opportunities, but beating Florida State is not a ticket-punching game for Syracuse in terms of the big dance.
Mr. Dodger has to lay off the Genesee Cream Ale. Let's go to Syracuse's old conference, the Big East, because it's not getting enough respect. How about this from Big East Barroom? The Big East is 120 at home, not including DePaul at Georgetown, because those teams are awful. But other than that, there are 5 teams in the Big East in the KenPom top 30 and in offensive efficiency top 30, all with different strengths, including one of those teams that beat the #1 team in the nation. That was UConn. They got 2 good bigs. Marquette spaces you out and plays fast. Xavier has the best transfer guard in the country in Soleil Boom. And Bryce Hopkins and Providence have remade themselves year after year after year. The Big East does not get enough respect.
I don't think the ACC gets enough respect either, and specifically Pittsburgh, a team that I don't think gets a lot of respect. Now, I know this is hot takes, but I have to agree with this one. Comes from Hall to Pitt, not Hail to Pitt, Hall to Pitt. He says the AP and the net rankings are ridiculous. The Panthers are 17-4 since November 20th. I have to agree with this take. I don't see any reason why Pittsburgh is not ranked right now. They've won 7 of their last 8 games. Those wins have included wins over number 7 UVA, number 15 Miami, number 23 NC State. They beat North Carolina twice, and they beat Northwestern earlier this season, a team that just beat Purdue. I think Pittsburgh deserves to be ranked. They've had an incredible season, and they're at the top of the ACC, man. So I just don't agree with these 2 rankings.
The West Coast Conference is better than the ACC this year. That is why so Pittsburgh is not ranked.
They're going to get 9 teams, maybe 8 or 9, maybe 9 teams in the NCAA tournament.
I can't believe it, man. Okay, after this, we'll stop talking about hot takes because clearly we don't get along here, and we'll get into things we can appreciate, some fantastic plays, our No Pulp Game of the Week, and we'll wrap things up with final thoughts. Stick with us.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me, My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
They told me a bottle couldn't dream. That I would never become a superhero. But I learned how to fly. Just to come back in a new disguise. And be the hero that I've always wanted to be.
What are you, superheroes?
Just four brothers who hate bullies and love this city.
Gear up, guys.
Time for the fourth quarter here on No Pulp with Ian Unsworth back on the desk. I'm John Eads. Now, I say the fourth quarter because you guys know me. I'm a big lacrosse guy. We've talked a lot of basketball on this show today. So for my play of the week, I'm going to the Lax Field. I'm going to the carpet for a season-opening matchup between Army and UMass. Check out this goal by Mike Tobin. Literally, the dude is parallel to the ground. How does he score this? Finds that upper left 90. That's the final bullet fired by the Minutemen, and it comes from Mike Tobin in a 10-8 win. Ian,
all right, John, let's go back to basketball. Lacrosse was nice, but we go to Portland State in northern Arizona, a showdown in the desert that goes down to the last millisecond. So Portland State is down 1 with .4 to go, and let's check this out. Isaiah Johnson catches the feed 3/4 of the court from Hunter Woods and just flips it, and it goes in. Miraculous. And would you believe that with 1 second to go, Northern Arizona hit a 3 to go in front. So back-to-back buzzer beaters. It doesn't get any better than that in college basketball, and that's why we love the sport.
That's crazy. There aren't many things that I think would beat a goal like Mike Tobin scored. The dude was literally levitating, but I'd say that is one. That's a crazy
All right,
ending.
It's time for our No Pulp Game of the Week.
It's time for the No Pulp Game of the Week.
Everybody loves the Big 12. It is bar none the best conference in college basketball, and this is where we have the top college basketball contest coming up this weekend. It's Kansas and Baylor. If you love guard play, you're going to love this one.
It's going to be a great game. 75-69 was the score in the first matchup between these two teams. And the two things that really stuck out to me in that matchup and what I want to see change in this matchup, Kansas hit just 5 threes in that first matchup on 19 attempts. Jalen Wilson also scored 23 points for Kansas, so he has to be a dog again. But the Jayhawks also have to hit threes. On the other side, Baylor, 20 of 25 from the free throw line. They lived at the charity stripe in that game.
A really impressive matchup coming up this weekend. Going to be interesting to see what Keontae George can bring. If you remember the year 2014, back when I was in 8th grade and pop music was still evolving, you might remember that Mercer beat Duke, Dayton beat Ohio State and Syracuse, and Stephen F. Austin beat VCU. There were 13 upsets in that NCAA tournament. There could be more this year because there were 5 different number 1 teams in the regular season. And then this year, we've had 5 different number 1 teams. March is always madness, but it's going to be even better in 2023.
Well, before we get to Marchie, and I'm curious to see how Syracuse men's lacrosse continues to perform, because last year the Orange were just downright terrible. Syracuse posted a 4-10 record, which marked its worst season in the 107 years that the program has existed. Now this year, Gary Gitt and company have quickly turned things around. Syracuse is off to a 3-0 start and just entered the top 20 rankings. Now that's all fine and dandy, but Syracuse has a gauntlet coming up with a capital G. The Orange have to trek through a 4-game stretch that features as many ranked opponents. The list includes number 9 Maryland, number 19 North Carolina, number 16 Duke, and number 6 Johns Hopkins. So as Syracuse truly turned things around in the span of a year, we'll get an early indication to what that answer is starting on Saturday in College Park.
Well, people in the 315 will certainly enjoy Syracuse lacrosse more than Syracuse basketball this year. Let's look anywhere else than in the Dome to enjoy your February and March. For John Eads, our executive producer Liam Griffin, and everyone else behind the scenes, I'm Ian Unsworth. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great night.